You want to start being nice to each other? Well, most on me. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Thank you for acknowledging that on
camera.
To the public.
I've been a grouch.
Is there a reason besides not feeling good?
No, it was prompted by not feeling good, and then bothered by it,
escalated.
and then bothered by everything.
Yeah, I could tell last night.
Yeah, being sleep deprived, having stomach.
Welcome to podcast number 79, where once again there's sickness going through our family. Yeah. And not sleeping.
I don't do
the ongoing talk.
I don't do, and I've said this before. I think one of my biggest fears is to lose your, like, having a concussion and losing whatever part of you that is you, and like through a rewiring.
Right.
I've met, and I think I've shared this before, like I've met multiple people who've had concussions either through like the military, and then they became more like irritable or some kind of mental change. Or I've met 40-year-old guys who like hit their head against the ground multiple times, and then they became like a different person. And I've realized that one of my biggest fears, well, I have lots of fears, but one of my biggest like professional fears is to like lose the wiring that is in my brain.
Do you feel like sleep deprivation is
Yes.
making you that way?
100%.
Really?
100%. Especially like, it's one thing if I had a bad night's sleep, and this is, by the way, an ongoing conversation. If you're just chiming in and you're like, what are you talking about? I haven't been sleeping good in the last maybe year, a solid year, maybe less. I think it's escalated in the last 6 months.
Well, it started with Harper being born, so I don't know if you would say in the last 2 years.
Right. Well, yes. Okay. So I guess what the conclusion of where I'm at right now. Yes, it started when year and a half Harper was born. And it started with me getting up in the middle of the night. We would tag team. I'd get her a bottle. You would feed her or do both, and we switch off, whatever. But it got to the point where it was such a regular timed thing, like on the dot between 3 and 4 a.m. every morning, that it almost like after doing that for a year and a half, it recalibrated your sleep cycle. And it got to the point that even now that she doesn't wake up at those times, I naturally wake up every single day on the dot between 3 and 4 without skipping a day.
And that's been going on for about like 6
solid months.
Before that, it was kind of on and off.
Yes, 6 solid months. And I would say in the last 6 months, she kind of gotten a little bit better.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, she's fine.
Right.
She sleeps through the night. We're not having to wake up every night. I mean, every once in a while, she'll still wake up at 4, which is so funny to me. And she's like wide awake.
She'll make a little noise, and obviously, if you're in a deep sleep, you won't hear it. So it's not like a repetitive. Anywho, so it kind of did this thing where I'd wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or something like that, just to turn, and then I'm like anticipating a cry. And now I can't fall asleep. So now what ends up happening is like my brain just is awake. It's just fully awake, as if the alarm just rang, and not like an alarm just rang that you're like, oh, I can go back to sleep, but just wide awake. You're just thinking about projects, ideas, what you need to accomplish today, that whole jazz. And you're like, it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, I know if I get up right now, I'm going to feel terrible the rest of the day.
Right.
I might feel productive like till lunchtime, and then it's just like a crash course. And so it's been getting worse and worse. And I would try to take like a sleeping cocktail, which is like a neuroscientist, Dr. Huberman, I think. He was on the Rogan podcast, and he was talking about it. Like, you take Apigen, you take L-theanine, and you take Neuromag, magnesium, before bed, and it ensures that you go into a deeper REM cycle.
And what are those?
Those are natural. Are natural vitamin supplements that have like binding receptors in your brain that help, essentially not help you fall asleep, but help you like escort into like, it turns off your like frontal lobe, like the cognitive like thinking part. And that helped going into like a deep REM cycle all the time. I had great dreams. They were super in depth. But again, 3, 4 o'clock hits. I need to go to the bathroom. Wide awake. Nothing you can do about it. So then I said, okay, well, what if I took melatonin? And it ends up what happening is like once doing that, I would toss and turn in bed for about 2 hours. And then roughly around 5:30, I'd finally doze off. And then my alarm would hit off like 7:30, which before I used to wake up at 5:30 for work. So like the whole 7:30, I feel like super unproductive. Feel lazy. And now And so what ends up happening because of that, like stay up so long in the middle of the night trying to fall back asleep, I'm now like dazed in the head. I have a headache in the morning. Like I'm not myself. I can't think. I can't function. I don't have ideas. I'm not motivated.
I feel like that every morning.
Do you do? And sometimes what would help is like working out in the morning, and then it'll get me out of it. That's why a lot of times to Kyle, I'll just text and be like, hey, like I'll push it out an hour that we start because I'm like, I'm just not myself. It literally feels like a hangover every single day. And then I had an idea. I was like, well, what if when I do wake up, to speed up the process from tossing and turning, what if I pop in a few melatonins to help me get back to sleep? And by the time melatonin kicks in, it's like close to another 45 minutes.
It takes that long to kick in?
My body size, sure, yeah. And so I finally went to had a physical with my physician, not a physical, but a checkup. And first thing she goes like, this is yesterday. The day before.
The day before.
She was like, so how's it going? And right out of the gates, I was like, I'm not sleeping. She's like, and she just got back from maternity leave. She had her 4th kid. And I was like, and so I just like laid it all on her. I was like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I tried this, it didn't work, blah, 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 blah. This is all
help me.
And then the most reassuring thing was she says like, okay, so what you have is what's called latency insomnia. Instead of you having insomnia in the beginning stages, you have it in the end. Your brain has now, because of like you're anxious about either hearing your daughter or whatever in the middle of the night, your brain now associates the bed as just the office essentially. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, so she gave me some like from a sleep scientist who's here in Boise, a really good one apparently. She says he kind of came up with this little checklist of things you should do. It's obviously not something you fix overnight, but it's something you create a habit. And
over time.
Essentially what it does is it helps disassociate. It helps basically associate your bed with sleep. Mm-hmm. Like somehow as if like when you're in your room, on your bed, in your pillow, and the lights are off, your brain goes, oh, it's time to go night-night. Not it's time to think. And so this little checklist, it's supposed to help you create that habit in your brain to like associate that. But it's an annoying habit. Like the habit, like it involves you.
So you can't like watch TV in bed.
You can't watch TV in bed. You obviously don't be on your phone in bed. But then the whole thing is like when you do wake up in the middle of the night, you're supposed to, and this is the most annoying part, is you're supposed to leave that room and go do something in low light, like read or do the puzzle or something like that, or a crossword puzzle. And then try go back to bed when you're starting yawning and getting tired again. And then don't lay there for more than 15, 20 minutes. If you can't fall back asleep, come back and do that again. So it's the most annoying thing in the world.
Yeah, so you have to physically get up.
You have to physically get up, throw a hoodie on or something like that, go to the next room and sit there. So I did that last night. And
they say it takes about like a month or two, right, to get into that rhythm.
Maybe, yeah. I haven't heard how long it takes.
I think one of our friends told us that her friend tried it, and she said it took about a month to like slowly get back into that pattern of your brain actually like falling asleep and staying asleep. Yeah,
and it's tough because like I'm reading a book by like a social media friend of mine. I've never met him in person, but he's a really cool guy. Trent Pretzler. He's a canoe maker in New York, and he wrote a book. It's called Little and Often or something like that. Yeah, I think it's called Little and Often. And it's like it's called a memoir when it's about yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's like a memoir, and it's like I'm chapter like 5, but there's some stuff like he had a really difficult upbringing, but there's stuff that you relate to. And like last night, 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, I was like, I got teared up because of like whatever he was talking about with the relationship with his.
So now you can't fall asleep because you're thinking about that.
Yes, I was like tearing up reading this book at 4:30 in the morning.
Read something like.
Oh well, before I started reading that book, I decided to go. I decided to go on this like journey. I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start reading some of those books, like the classic literature. From like middle school and high school, like, Grapes of Wrath or, Huck Finn or something like that. And I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll do Uncle Tom's Cabin.
You should read Huckleberry Finn first.
Huckleberry Finn first. And man, like again,
although that one is, they're all kind of heavy. And that's the reason you read them in like middle school, high school is for like the content in it and like the beautiful literature that is created as well. And so I think it's probably not a book you should be reading to get yourself to fall asleep.
Yeah, I should be reading like Leviticus.
You need to be reading like instruction manuals or something.
But the thing is, like, I'm now like really into this book, Trent's book, like, because it's really fascinating, because it's interesting when you read a memoir about a person you don't know about. But this is a person, like, I exchanged DMs with him and stuff like that. Interesting. Yeah. And so it makes it even more interesting. It's like, wow, I didn't realize your life was that, interesting.
I think reading, like, for certain people is a good idea. But for others, it's actually it's almost like the opposite. It makes you think even more. Like, for me, if I'm reading a book and I'm really into it, I will not fall asleep. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'll stay up till like 4 a.m. reading it because I don't want to put it down. Yeah. But maybe like a puzzle would be more beneficial for you, because it's just like, although you're using your brain too. Yeah. So it's like, what would you be doing? It would
have to be like
something very...
I think, I don't know how to play Sudoku, but I would have to be like Sudoku. Something like
that, yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, so what number? Oh, this is annoying. I'm just... Maybe something like that I would need to do. Hey guys, real quick, let's take a break and thank the sponsors of today's episode, Flexil. Now, it is no secret that I'm a huge advocate for taking on repairs and projects yourself when at all possible. There is nothing more satisfying than seeing the results of a successful project that you've done. But to bring these DIY projects and repairs to life, you need the products that work. That is why when I'm ready to take on a challenging repair, I trust the Flexil family of products to help me get the job done. I have personally made both indoor and outdoor repairs using Flexil products, and let me tell you, man, do they get the job done. From winterizing my home to automotive repairs, there's no better and faster way to make reliable fixes than Flexil. So here's what you're gonna do. Next time you're ready to take on a DIY challenge, make sure you're prepared to repair these things with products that work. Use Flexil. Head over to their website, that is flexilproducts.com, and check out their entire line of powerful products today. Thank you, Flexil, and let's get back into this episode. It's funny, I've and you've known this, I've never liked watching movies that didn't make me laugh. Mm-hmm. So I always like to consume content that entertained me through humor. And then in the last couple of years, I finally started like evolving to going like, well, there's something else funny out there. So like nobody's really making really funny movies anymore. And so like, let's like watch these like stories or these, whether it's, what's that movie that we were, Game of Thrones, that was like the first one kind of thing. Like, you went on this like adventure. Mm-hmm. And then I started realizing why I never liked those movies is because they make you feel things. Like an emotion.
The emotion.
And because there's somebody who's oppressed, somebody who's weak, and they're being taken advantage of.
Right.
And I realized I never liked that. And so with books and other movies that I'm like, well, I'll be watching now, I'll catch myself getting like choked up and teary-eyed. And they're making me feel things. And it's so easy to be like, I want to get out of this. But
why do you want to get out of it?
Because I don't want to feel sad.
Oh, I like kind of feeling sad sometimes during a movie.
Okay, so here's a prime example, and this is like one of the parts.
But isn't that what you categorize a good movie is when it makes you feel things?
Correct, on paper for sure, and that's why that's what I always actually tell myself.
Yeah,
is that movies are supposed to create this escapism where the art part is the fact that they're most supposed to make you feel something. Same thing with music. Music is supposed to make you feel something.
That's a well-made movie when it makes you cry and like feel that raw emotion. Yeah,
but that's a real thing.
But you don't want to feel that.
I don't want to feel it because it's a sad and painful thing. Like, so I have a disabled brother, and in the book, Trent is talking about his sister, which I haven't got to the part where they diagnose what it is, and I'm assuming she maybe passed away. But there was this like part where he was this child, and he would hear his sister cry in the middle of the night. I'm assuming it's like roughly around the ages of like that 6, 7 maybe. And she would cry calling his name. His name's Trent, but she would call him Tren because she couldn't at that point. So it was Tret. She called him Tret because she couldn't pronounce her R's at that point. It sounded like she had like either myasthenia gravis or some kind of neurological. Again, I haven't got to the part of the book where it was saying like what she was diagnosed with, and then she would start gurgling and kind of like choking up on her own like saliva and stuff like that, and so. so he would, right, you know, he mentioned how he would go and brush her hair in the middle of the night. Like I have a daughter, I have sons, like I have a mentally disabled brother. So like I can, like that made me like cry in the middle of the night, 4:30 in the morning. And that made me feel things. And those are beautiful things, but I don't want to feel those things when you can relate to those things. I'd rather,
because then it's not just you feeling the emotion, it's you feeling the pain behind the emotion as well, because you can relate to it.
Exactly. As opposed to you growing up in a sheltered environment and then you read something.
You're just like, oh, that's sad.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize the world was like that. That's a different awakening. I think that's why people tell their kids, like, go travel abroad, go see how the world really is, go see starving kids in Africa, kind of thing, you know. So it helps shape your perspective. Except on my side, it's like, I know the world is dark. I've experienced a lot of the darkness, and here's another person who's experienced it as well. And now I have to like be reminded of those things again. And I don't know if I like that at all. I don't know if that's a positive thing.
Right.
Because what good is that I bawl even more, you know?
Right.
So that's the part.
Yeah, and it's just more painful to remember those things too for you.
Right. So, I mean, listen, I respect it. It's an art form, and I always tell myself in the midst of it. In fact, I remember watching a movie, and I don't know if this is either a good reference or not, but I was watching Bird Box on the airplane with Jennifer, what's her name?
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock. And again, anytime kids are involved.
Yeah, that's what gets me too. It's because it's like you can relate to that. You have your own kids, and especially when they're like the same ages or remind you of your kids. Oh, that's just like heart-wrenching.
So in the midst of all of that, I'm like, these things are meant to make you feel things, and to me, I don't want to feel those things. I've seen them, you know, or I've heard about them, or I have some kind of a connection to those things. So why force me to relive it? I don't know if there's a mental development that comes, or a personal growth from reliving certain things.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah, it's more painful, like I said.
So that's what I'm doing at 4:30 in the morning. Now, one smart thing I did yesterday was I took 2 of the melatonins, and then I went to read. And so essentially I'm just reading till melatonin kicks in. And then I went to bed, and then I truly felt myself like dozing off. And I was like, all right. And I really get excited. And I was like, oh my gosh, here's that feeling. here's that feeling we're about
just like on a roller coaster as you're going down.
It really is. It's like you're so excited that you're finally going to be able to like turn your brain off and go to sleep. So.
And do you think it's only related to that, like the fact that your sleep was like reset by Harper? Because I was thinking the other day, so yesterday I had like a design client that I was supposed to go style for, like, or at least start, and I haven't done that in a while. It's been a while because I have a lot of like out of the state projects. I have projects where I source furniture and products, but I don't go style it. They'll just do it themselves. I'll just order all the furniture. Anyway, this project has been going on for like a year, and so it's like a really big deal. And so yesterday I went to go like figure stuff out to start styling. And the night before, I just could not sleep. And it brought me back to remembering when I was staging. Every single time I had a staging job the night before, I could not sleep. Not like I would have these like increments of 1 hour, half an hour, then I would wake up, then I would go back. And then the whole time my dreams would be thinking about that staging. Do you feel like maybe because also in the last year and a half is when you started going full time, right after Harper was born? Do you feel like a lot of that stress and just knowing like everything you have to do the next day is causing you to not sleep?
I don't think, I see, on paper, I've been, yes, full-time since Harper was born. That was a year and a half. But the reality is like what I consider full-time is when I'm not making a paycheck at my primary job. So I still worked at the hospital for another year and a half before that, not collecting, my paychecks were $200. I was there for the medical benefits.
Right.
So I consider being full-time for going already 3 years now out of the 6 years of doing YouTube and content. the stress. So I feel like I've done this long enough that I'm not like nervous about
the next day of like everything you have
I'm
to
not
do.
nervous about funding the projects. I'm not nervous about who's the next sponsor going to be. I'm not worried about, you know what I mean? Like,
that doesn't like keep you up at night.
it doesn't. I mean, I think maybe in the very beginning, Kyle, you and I have been working together for about 2 years now, almost. I think April is going to be 2 years, right? Yeah. And so that maybe had a little bit where it's like, well, I'm taking somebody on and this is a person with a family too, and they need to provide. Can I sustain this whole organization and make sure everybody's taken care of? That was a little bit of it. But I grew out of that very, very quickly, especially when it came down to like booking the calendar out far enough that I'm like, oh man, we're a couple of months out with sponsorships. We're fine.
That's true. You have that like security of like thinking ahead.
Yeah. So I don't have that like I'm nervous because
so
I'm
it is
full-time.
Strictly just like something was reset in
It's
your
ideas.
brain.
It's ideas. Like, okay, prime example, 2 nights ago, what kept me up is this bidet installation that we're doing where the whole video is about adding an outlet by your toilet. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I was just thinking, okay, so, well, the lights will flicker if we connect it to this circuit, but they won't flicker over there. But then how do I run it over there? Well, I think there's a junction box on the other side, and then I can cut the drywall at a minimum. Well, that sucks because I already did that drywall. Well, I can cut it at a minimum. Like the logistics of projects.
That's kind of what I was talking about is like everything that it takes to make that project work. Not necessarily like, booking your calendar out and making sure you're like set up with like, brands and everything. I was more talking about like the logistics of every project. Does that keep you up at night?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because that's the stuff that would keep me up at night. I have to think about, okay, do I have everything I need to style that? Is there anything I'm missing? Okay, do I need to go pick anything up? I can't forget the toolbox. I can't, like the art, I have the frames. Do I have the actual art pieces? So things like that where it's if I forget one thing, I have to go back home and get it, So it's setting yourself up for success for the next day. It takes a lot.
It does take a lot. And before my, I used to work really hard to make sure that I could have this like sleep cycle where I would wake up between, 5:30 and 6 and then do computer work, which is usually emails. But then the majority of that is planning for that day. It's planning of what supplies I need to get and maybe do some SketchUp stuff where it's like what dimensions are going to be in this thing. And that was like my planning of the logistics of like how we're going to execute this. But ever since the whole like sleep thing happened, I had to keep pushing my alarm clock all the way to 7:30 because A, kids wake up for school at that time, but B, I couldn't sleep. So I needed to be able to, if I lost 2 hours in the middle of the night, I had to kind of gain them somewhere in order to feel mental clarity. So essentially I lost that part of my organization to like the section for planning. So now my computer time is very small. There's a handful of things that have to be done every single day. And it also has another, dozen of emails I need to get answered, but that's like every day. So there's no room for like, oh, I'm going to do this too. Or let's plan that. Or let's look at the supply list.
What if you did that like at the end of the day? Is that too much?
You're so anxious to be done already.
Yeah.
It's
the last thing you want to do.
It's your last. You're sweating up a storm because you're trying to be efficient. Things are going wrong. We were hooking up the plumbing for the bidet, and of course the little connector piece on the back of the toilet, it was leaking because I couldn't tighten it because of the way the toilet was set up. And so now we lost a couple hours from it. So now there's stress, there's frustration. You're tired. You're just ready to be done. And the last thing you want to do is go sit and say, okay, what are we going to plan for tomorrow? For the majority, like the idea is always planned, right? So like Kyle and I will always kind of have a little powwow where we'll be like, okay, so I think today we're going to do this and that. Tomorrow should be just this and the other thing. We'll wrap up the intros and outros. And then how many days do you think we need for the video to be done? And then we'll kind of plan out the days. But the execution and the steps and the details. And let's be honest, sometimes I make the wrong decision in terms of like how to do the thing, and then I'm sleeping on it, and the idea will come to me. It's like, well, did you consider this? Did you consider that? So those are the things. Like actually, one of the things that kept me up is because we're running the outlet for the bidet in the room that we moved the toilet. And by the way, if you know what we're talking about, we have a 3-part series, relocating an entire bathroom.
That's the one I helped on.
She did. Irina is debuted in 3 videos there. And, we moved everything into a closet essentially. And, wow, you were so proud the way you said it. Like, yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Yes,
and it was my idea.
Yes, girl.
I want you all to know.
And so the thing that crossed, like literally, I mean, that project's been done for over 8 months and literally hit me in the middle of the night. I never put an outlet in that bathroom.
Oh, there's no outlet?
Right. The outlet is still in the original room, which is now a storage closet.
Why would we need an outlet?
Because every bathroom needs okay, so imagine you have people spending the night and they're like, hey, I'm going to go curl my hair in your bathroom.
Well, I'd be like, go in the boys' bathroom.
Go in the boys' bathroom.
That bathroom is not for hair curling,
it's not
first of all.
So those little things.
Yeah.
And so then of course I came up with the solution. I was like, okay, so I'll piggyback off that wall. It'll give me room to clear so stuff like that. It's just these small things, not stuff that like, so, because what you do, it's like you plan and then it's like you have to put on a performance essentially, right?
Yeah.
You're like, we've been practicing, or you're
this long. There's just a lot of like
event planning, essentially that's what you're doing. Event planning is where it's like you have so many moving things and then you're like, it all comes down to this one day. So of course there's stress. Everybody would be up. It's like you're saying you have to catch the flight tomorrow.
It's like your wedding day. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You just can't sleep.
But with me, it's everyday stuff.
It's the details.
It's the small details. They're not stuff that I should be losing sleep about.
But you actually, it makes sense why you're losing sleep, because the things that you're doing, it's the details and small stuff. But also, like, if something goes wrong, you have to really think about making sure like you're doing it right. So like the plumbing's right so it doesn't leak, because there's just like a lot of, I don't know, weight behind it that you don't want things to, like, you don't want to ruin the house and have something like,
yes and no,
especially with electrical and plumbing. Right. And
yes and no. And I mean, I've done enough electrical, I've done enough plumbing.
Doesn't scare you?
It doesn't scare me, but I also have a level of confidence that, well, at least ease. It's because majority of the people that follow me, they're like, you gave me the courage to do this, or or how do I get the courage to do that? My thing is like, what's the worst? It's your house. What's the worst that can happen? Yes, you screw something up. You're going to have to deal with it. You know how to turn the water off. You know how to hit the breaker, turn the power off so it's safe. And maybe you screwed it up, but just like I would wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I think I did that wrong. And then you go figure out how to fix it and make it right.
Just problem solving.
That's not problem solving. And so I think more people need to understand that it's your house. Like, to a degree, yeah, if you do something wrong, yes, there could be a fire. Yes, there could be flooding. Flooding, it's not like it's going to flood overnight. You're going to wake up in the morning and there's going to be a puddle. Guess what you're going to do? Shut the water valve off. Go back to where you were. Find where the leak is, and then do it the right way. Go online, figure out what you could have done. Maybe you had a bad crimp on your pecs. Whatever it is, you solve that. Electrical is the same thing. You hook it up. You hit the switch. It either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't and your breaker keeps triggering, don't try to hit it back and try to like jam the breaker. Go and undo it. Get online. Figure out. Type in how to wire in a light switch to a 3-wheel light switch, and then boom, you're back in business. So it's not like everything can be undone, and it's your property. It's not. It's far more scarier if it's a client that you're working for and you screwed up, because now you're looking at somebody's gonna sue you, damages and all that stuff. But if it's your property, you're the one that can go fix it, and you can the one that can go look it up. And then if still you can't figure out, you can go, I'll just go hire a guy to go fix my problem. That's totally fine. So
and most people skip that step and just hire the person.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's a different thing. Is like if you're trying to save the money and if you're trying to,
like do it yourself.
Right.
It makes sense.
The old DIY. So I mean, this is this whole like 360 about sleep and why
and
it's
then
not happening.
so a couple nights ago you did not sleep well. You woke up early.
Oh, the 4:30.
And then that night, and then that evening, we had friends over, and you were just so tired. So they got left kind of normal time. You went to sleep, and you woke up what time? Like 12:30? Because I had just gone to bed. No,
I woke up when Harper woke up. That was Harper doesn't wake up anymore really that much, and then that's the night that she decided to not have a good sleep.
But it was because I remember looking at the time. It was like 12:30 or something. It wasn't even that like.
I don't know.
Late into the night. But you woke up not feeling well.
Oh, yeah. So
that's the night I'm talking about.
That was a miserable day because it was 4:30 and I've kind of been exhausted because I've been wrestling with this whole sleep thing for so long. And by the way, somebody wrote to me, they're like, because they heard us talking about this on the podcast about the sleep thing.
Because we will never not talk about it.
Right. And some guy wrote me, he's like, hey, have you ever considered maybe you have sleep apnea? My wife recommended to me, and I got a CPAP machine, and I've been sleeping better. And the thing is, like, I've been a respiratory therapist, so we dealt with sleep studies to work with people with CPAP machines. And with sleep apnea, it's two things. Either you're overweight and you have extra tissue obstructing your airway in your upper airway. So in the middle of the night, when that tissue relaxes, it occludes it, and then therefore it kind of makes you snore. So the big question is, you ask your spouse, does your spouse snore? And a lot of times people snore when they drink.
You do a little bit.
Well, if I drink and I go to bed and I sleep on my back, yes, it will, all the tissue in your back of your throat drips
but not
down.
Regularly. Yeah.
No, not regularly. And so that is it's called an obstructive sleep apnea. So yes, you need a CPAP machine or don't drink before bed kind of thing.
Maybe you have like a mild version of it. I don't know.
But then the next one is central sleep apnea, which it's your brain having like a misfiring where you don't take as many breaths in the middle of the night. So some people can go for like a couple of seconds of not taking a breath. That's a signal that's not being fired. And
I have heard you like on a few occasions go like, or like that.
Oh, well, I also have postnasal drip, and that
could be part of it.
That's an obstructive issue as well, which there's central and obstructive sleep apnea. One is anything in the way, could be postnasal drip, could be tissue, and the other one is central, which is your brain not firing and turning it on. But the thing is, there's a lot of diagnostic things where it's like, do you wake up with a headache? Do you get tired in the middle of the day? Meaning like you wake up with a headache because like carbon dioxide retention.
Right.
If you're tired, meaning you didn't have a good sleep kind of thing. So there's a lot of like things like that.
You would kind of.
With me now, I don't really wake up too many times in the middle of the night. It's more of like, I'm up. Like, so
once you do wake up, you're up.
Yeah. Listen, if I'll go to bed at 10 and I won't wake up till 3 or 4, but I'll be in the deepest sleep of my life between that time. Right. And so the only way to really diagnose is to understand that this is happening exactly at the exact time.
Every night.
Every night after a good solid
It's
sleep.
not random.
No. It would be a different story if like I've been in and out all night. Every night you're like, hey, you're snoring. That's a whole thing. It was like, that's probably sleep apnea.
You know what I've been getting? That we're on the topic. Like I don't know if it's from stress related or what, but lately, probably for the last like a month or so, when I'm sleeping, I'll like be sleeping and I'll like jerk myself awake.
Oh, I've had that a few times.
I have that so often lately where
Are you afraid to get hit?
I don't know, but like my hand will actually like fly up and it will wake me up. It's almost like that free falling feeling, but I'm not dreaming. At least I don't remember I'm dreaming. Usually I'd be like dreaming and I'd be like falling off a cliff and then I'd wake up. But I'll literally just be sleeping and my arm just goes like this. I'm like,
Are you sponsored by Red Bull in the middle of this where you're doing these extreme sports?
I don't know. But it like freaks me out. And then my heart starts racing and then I can't fall asleep because it's like, what was that?
I've had that a few times and occasionally that'll happen, but it's more of like a leg kick. I'll kick my leg and that'll thrust me up.
I get the leg one, but lately it's been my arms. I don't know. Do you ever have, on the topic of like sleeping, do you ever feel like when you're falling asleep, you can't put your arms in a comfortable position?
Yeah, but I have
that like every night.
No, I don't have that. I've kind of figured one out. I do one hand behind my lower back. Sometimes I put one hand like just like the two fingers like underneath the rubber band of your underwear.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like a guy's thing. I remember in high school like a lot of guys would put hands in their sweatpants, which is weird. But I never did that then. But as sleeping wise, it's like a comfort thing. And then my third thing, and this is the most popular one, is I'll put. I try to fall asleep on my back, and I'll put one hand behind the pillow.
But does your arm fall asleep?
No, the way I lay down, and then I'll occlude one of my ears with that arm. So that's like my 3 ways of sleeping.
I've tried that, but then my arm falls asleep, and then I'm like, once I start thinking about it too much, I'm like, I can't get comfortable. I'll put like my hands like this, like a
mummy.
Like a mummy with an X, and then I'll like put them straight down. I'm like, oh, that's not comfortable either. And then I'll just like kind of fold them together. You're
like you're in a coffin. Is that what you're doing?
And I can't. And then like I'm in my head, and so now nothing feels comfortable, and I'm like,
But you can also, you're pretty good at sleeping on your side. So why don't you just put the hands underneath the pillow?
I do. And then my hands falls asleep. And then
you have,
I don't know if I'm just like a sensitive, I don't know.
Circulation thing. That's interesting.
Or I've also realized I'm like very, not fidgety, but restless. Like yesterday I went to go watch a movie with a friend, and the whole time I was sitting there, it was the same thing. I couldn't find like a resting place for my arms that was comfortable.
You didn't want to hold her hand?
And like, I tried. And then like I'd put my hands on the armrest and I'm like, that's not comfortable. And then like the more you start thinking about it, the more restless you are and uncomfortable. I feel like I get that all the time. Maybe I think about it too much.
Maybe I think you're overanalyzing it. I could see that. To me,
if anybody else has that issue, let me know.
I just want to sleep. That's all I want to do. I don't care what my hands
You're past that, thinking about things.
I want to wake up with a clear head.
Thinking about the perfect hand position to sleep in.
Right. Yeah, it's so silly, man. I'm hoping this is going to work. I'll have to give it a full 2 months.
Yeah,
but then again,
we'll see.
if I don't do this, then it's just, what's going to happen? One day it's going to go away? Probably not.
You have to do something. Yeah. At least try. Yeah. I mean, you're on the right path.
The straight and narrow path. Kyle, do you have any issues like this?
We're just old.
Just with like kids waking up.
Yeah.
But you have no problem going back to sleep of it?
No, just because I'm so exhausted all the time.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of jealous of that. I'm not jealous of like that routine, but I'm jealous of, I do remember, they say like don't work out a few hours before bed. I do remember doing jiu-jitsu in the evening classes and then coming home and being so exhausted that I would be like in the deepest sleep of my life.
And that's what's interesting to me is you are so exhausted when you fall asleep, but it's the brain waking up and going, nope, you're awake now.
You're awake now. Yeah.
And you used to, never
but
do that.
Going back to where the story was, it was like, it was 4:30 in the morning. I woke up this a couple of nights ago and it was one of those things I was like, you know what? This is before my appointment. It was actually, the appointment's going to be later that day. And I was like, okay, you know what? I need to be like, I guess this is my life now. If I'm waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I might as well go and get work done. I'm like, I follow Jocko Willink online, who's a former Marine or Navy SEAL. And his whole thing is like on social media, he's always taking pictures of his watch in the morning. And it's always like 4:30, 4:35. And he's like working out. Really hardcore dude. And I was like, I guess this is my life. I guess I'm just going to, if there's people out there who are doing, workouts, I might as well just get computer work done. And I woke up and I got a crap ton of computer work done. And then I had my doctor's appointment. That was around noon. That was fine. I came home after a haircut around 4 and I started yawning up a storm.
You were so tired.
And we had company over for dinner later that evening. And I was like yawning and yawning and yawning. And I told you how tired I was. And I was like, I'm going to have to rally somehow. They were here. Friends were here. We're having a great time. It's getting worse. And our company is like, hey, we need to get going soon to get Alex to bed.
So at that point, were you just?
It was like 6.
I know you were tired, but were you not feeling well?
So I was feeling fine, and then when it came to dinner, I was like everybody's eating, and I just wasn't that hungry. I still felt full, but I was like, you know what? Let me have one of these pulled chicken sandwich. Is pulled pork or pulled chicken? I don't remember.
Chicken.
Pulled chicken sandwiches, and I had it. And usually I can scuff down a bunch of those, but I had like one and I was like so full. And I was like, oh. So the whole time I was full and I was tired. So I didn't know if it was just like.
Because you're so tired.
You know how like if you pull an all-nighter like driving or something like that, you're like, you get gassy or whatever. Like your digestive system is like not rested or something like that. So that's what I felt. And then when I went to bed, I remembered because I had like another stomach bug like a month ago. And I remember one similarity where hours after I ate, I still felt like super full. Mm-hmm. And like I'm burping and stuff like that. And I was like, uh-oh, I wonder if this is something like that. But I was like, well, last time this happened, I couldn't even fall asleep. And now I'm probably not going to have any problems falling asleep. I fell asleep and then I woke up in the middle of the night and my legs were hot. And I was like, I think something is like brewing in my body. But I didn't feel like throwing up. I was like, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. So I just like sat there. And I was like, and I'm still like burping and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this is definitely something's in my stomach.
But you didn't feel like throwing up?
No, I forced myself to throw up. I put my fingers down my throat. And the thing is, if there's nothing there and you're just bloated or something like that, nothing would come out. Just like maybe a little bit of water. Mm-hmm. but I had food come out. And that's when I was like, oh, it was something like either brewed in my stomach and then I had food and it didn't go anywhere, or I had food and then that caused it.
Weird.
But
I wonder if it was kind of tied to the lack of sleep. Your body just like wasn't able to, I don't know, digest.
I don't know.
Not that I have any science behind that.
It's good bro science though. It's pretty good bro science.
I feel like it makes sense.
Yeah, no, listen, I don't know. But it was terrible because it was like
the one night you needed sleep, you ended up
throwing up. Yeah. Somebody's like, oh, probably need a CPAP machine. You threw up.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Have you tried? Maybe you have sleep apnea.
Yeah. So that's my story. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here anymore.
Definitely were.
I find myself rallying through the day pretty fine in terms of, not in the last recent days, but in terms of, projects with bad sleep. But
you just, I feel like it's evenings you struggle.
Yeah. But
figure it out, right?
Well, we'll try to figure it out. We'll see what the rest of it looks like.
I know, man, but the sleep, I don't know. It's so important, but as you age, I feel like sleep less anyway.
Kyle gets hit with a lot of bad night sleeps because of editing. Yeah. I feel bad for him. It's your fault. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, you should feel bad.
Yeah, you should feel bad.
Kyle, it's not me. It's these brands. They have timelines.
Not your fault.
Not my fault. Yeah. Well, sometimes I'll tell them, like, if I'm like really struggling with the project, like everything's going wrong, like this standing faucet, like I kept like cursing up a storm trying to hook this faucet up. And then like I look at Kyle and be like, sometimes I wonder who has the harder job. I think we're both.
It's a toss up.
We're both in the trenches. It both sucks. All of it sucks.
He's like, I'm going to edit this out.
Yeah. No, he's good about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's it. That's my rant on this one.
Yeah. Stay tuned for the next sleep stories.
Sleep stories.
We'll have a little title for it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the next episode of
the weekend updates.
Yeah. Weekend update.
We like check. People are like, how is he doing?
Yeah. Is he okay?
I do need to stop talking about sleep because I feel like with our friends, I feel like it always comes up in the conversation.
Well, I mean, if it's something that's part of your life now.
I need to pretend like I'm fine.
No, that's even worse. Like, I'm fine.
I need to just do like the our forefathers did and just drink our sorrows away.
Drink our sorrows away.
Press it, put it in a bottle and push it down with a chase it with Jack Daniels like a real man. Have a cigarette and somebody asks how you doing, say, I'm fine.
I'm great.
Fine.
Life is good.
Where's my Budweiser? Cowboy killers.
Not even Bud Light, huh?
Democrats. Just be that guy. I'm gonna be like everybody's father from the 60s.
Yeah.
I like it.
But you're sleeping. You're gonna tell everybody you're sleeping great.
Yeah, I'm sleeping great.
Yeah. Sleep's great.
8 hours a day, like a baby.
8 to 10.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey folks, the recent project, the standing. Well, we can brush over it. What do you think of the standing bathtub?
I love it. I've been using it. Harper even took a bath in it.
Harper took a bath. Yeah. I keep getting all these dummies that would like hit me up with not DMs but like comments, like the hate that I'm getting, and it's not hate. It's like know-it-alls, and maybe it's based off where they live, but they're like, that's not even waterproofed, and I'm like, I don't get it. Your bathtub is not waterproofed around. You have tile and there's a bathtub in there. So why would you be waterproofing it like the shower?
Right.
And so then they'll be like, you're supposed to have a drain in the middle of your floor. I was like, well, if your regular bathtub didn't have a drain in the middle of, how like you'd go to like the gym and there's a shower, like maybe it's like a group shower thing. It all goes into like a drain in the middle, right? So there's like, apparently some people live in certain parts of the country where you're supposed to have a drain in the floor outside of your bathtub.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. In some parts of the country. And I was like,
what?
But to me,
it was not like that before.
Well, that was my whole conversation.
We bought this house and there was nothing like that.
Well, nobody's house has that like that.
I've never seen that in a house.
Unless it's a shower. But just
never seen that. That's crazy.
All these wild dorks that are nerds that are writing these things like, oh, it's not even waterproof and it's not even. I'm like, dude, shut up. Why? The bathtub was there. It wasn't. Why would I put one there?
If there wasn't, there was before, which was built by a builder.
Oh my God. And they're like, it's not even, the floor is not even waterproof. It's a concrete slab. You can't get more waterproof than a concrete slab.
True.
You guys are dorks, man.
Oh,
but they feel like they need to put in their 2 cents.
Because it's like, I'm knowledgeable about this, so.
But hey, engagement is engagement.
Getting the views.
Getting the views. You gotta, the whole algorithm is click, watch, engage.
Comment,
Boom. Suckers.
Click, watch, like, comment.
Nerds.
All right. Well, hope you guys watch it. What's the next video?
We're coming out with a video next week, the installing an outlet for the bidet.
Right.
And then we'll start with the vanity in the bathroom, in the master.
Nice.
Sorry, I didn't want to say master bathroom. Sorry, that's
primary bathroom.
Primary. Yeah, please don't cancel me. It's primary bathroom.
Yes. That'll be so fun.
So fun.
We are gonna just knock it out of the park.
So what we did
so
here
much to do.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for watching or listening. Make sure you go watch, and thanks for following along. Bye.
Bye.